Welcome back to the deep dive. We're doing something a little bit different today, a deep dive into the world of personal finance. But, not the boring stuff. No budgeting tips here.
Right.
We're going deeper. We've got some really interesting insights from financial expert Morgan Housel.
Yeah, from a recent interview he did.
We're going to be talking about wealth, investing, and, the psychology behind the money choices that we make. What do you think? You ready to get into it?
Yeah, I think what's really fascinating is how much of what people consider financial wisdom really comes down to human behavior, not just like crunching numbers.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see that. We all want those simple formulas, right?
Yeah.
Save this percentage of your income or walk 10,000 steps a day.
Exactly.
Easy, right. But is that really how money works?
Well, not really. I mean, finance, it's not like math. It's not an equation with one right answer.
Okay.
Morgan actually uses a great example. He talks about lottery tickets
Okay.
and the fact that statistically, people in lower income brackets spend more of their income on them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, if you're just looking at it from a purely financial perspective,
Yeah.
that seems kind of irrational.
Yeah, you would think so.
But what's interesting is Morgan actually had a friend point out that when you're faced with tough choices, like just putting food on the table, that lottery ticket is hope.
Hmm.
It's a chance to, drastically change your situation.
Oh, so it's more about, your perspective then.
Totally. Yeah, the emotional side of money.
Right, because everyone's situation and their mindset's different.
Exactly.
So maybe those one-size-fits-all pieces of advice
Right.
don't really work the way that we think they do.
Yeah, they don't. And that leads right into another point that Morgan makes, which is this problem of impatience. He compares building wealth to planting an oak tree. You don't plant that seed and expect to have this giant oak, a week later.
No, you don't. It takes years.
Yeah, decades even. Investing is the same way, but so many of us want those results, now.
Instant gratification. We want it all, and we want it now.
That's right.
I mean, that's everywhere in our culture. We want the microwave version of creating wealth, not that slow simmer.
Exactly.
But wouldn't that impatience also, make people more susceptible to bad financial advice? Because there's a ton of that out there.
Absolutely. Yeah, if you see someone out there promising you guaranteed returns or acting like they've got a crystal ball to predict the market, just run.
Yeah.
Run the other way. It's like the Wild West out there, especially with all these financial influencers
Yeah.
popping up on social media.
It's a mixed bag, right? Social media has definitely made, financial knowledge more accessible,
Uh-huh.
which is great. But then there's that flip side. People with very little experience, maybe questionable motives,
Totally.
giving advice to, a massive audience.
Right. And it can be a breeding ground for misinformation
Yeah.
and risky strategies. You remember all that hype around meme stocks?
Oh, yeah, meme stocks and Dogecoin.
Yeah, Dogecoin, exactly.
Yeah. All driven by social media,
Yeah.
Just because someone has a Lambo and a fancy Instagram account doesn't make them an expert.
Yeah.
I think Morgan was really trying to make a distinction between, being an investor versus being a trader.
Yeah.
Right?
He did. He defines investing as putting your money into a business for the long term, believing in that business to grow. You buy Apple stock because you think they have great products and a solid vision.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So then what's trading?
So trading is about trying to profit from short-term price movements in the market.
Okay, gotcha.
So it's much riskier.
Mhm.
It's often based on technical analysis and timing things just right.
So it really comes down to, what you want. Are you playing that long game, like we talked about with the oak
Correct.
tree,
Yep.
or are you trying to, make a quick buck? You got to figure out, your risk tolerance and your goals before you jump into anything, I guess. Which makes me think about the whole get-rich-quick mentality. The whole GameStop thing. That really felt like it tapped into that desire for, rapid wealth.
Right. And those stories, they're captivating, but
Yeah.
they also set these unrealistic expectations.
Definitely.
Even a 12% annual return on your investment is really good over the long run.
Yeah.
But we're constantly seeing headlines about people making 100% gains in a week.
Right.
And it just warps our perception.
It does. Makes you think, well, why not me?
Exactly.
Which is probably when people, make some rash decisions.
And that's the danger, and those unrealistic expectations don't pan out. It leads to frustration, even risky behavior. It's important to remember, sustainable wealth is built slowly and steadily.
Not very glamorous, is it?
Not at all. Speaking of which, Morgan was actually really open about his own journey, how he started out as a day trader when he was just 19. You probably know what happened next.
Lost a bunch of money.
He did. He did.
Sensing a theme here.
But the beauty of that is he learned from those early mistakes.
Okay, so at least you learned.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the most valuable lessons, honestly, in personal finance.
Okay, I can see that.
Mistakes happen,
Yeah,
but it's better to make them early on when the stakes are a little bit lower.
makes sense. So if he tried all of that, what does his actual investment strategy look like now?
So now he's a big advocate for what are called passive index funds.
Oh, okay.
So they're low cost, they're diversified investments that basically track the overall market.
Okay.
It fits in perfectly with his whole long-term growth philosophy.
Yeah, I can see that. Low risk, slow and steady wins the race, right?
Mhm.
But here's something I didn't expect. He keeps a big chunk of his money in cash.
Yeah.
You don't hear most financial gurus telling you to do that.
No, you don't.
Uh-huh.
But his reasoning is actually really interesting. He sees it as like a safety net,
Yeah.
a buffer for all those unexpected events that, life throws at us.
So he's preparing for those rainy days, but on a much larger scale.
Exactly. He's acknowledging that you can't predict every risk. Sometimes the biggest threats are the ones that you just don't see coming.
Right, which reminds me of how his dad was able to retire early. He was an ER doctor, but he lived frugally, saved enough,
Yeah.
had that freedom.
It's a pretty powerful story.
It is. So financial independence, it's not just about luxury, right?
Mhm.
It's about options. Being able to make choices without being tied down by, money worries.
It's about being in control of your time, your future.
That's a very powerful idea.
Yeah, and a lot of that comes from keeping things simple,
Okay.
avoiding unnecessary complexity and fees.
Right, because there's peace of mind in knowing exactly where you stand financially, right?
Yeah.
You're not bogged down by all these complicated investments or debt. You can focus on the things that matter. Now, got to ask you about cryptocurrency. What's
Yeah.
Morgan think about all that?
Well, he's admitted that he doesn't personally own any,
Okay.
but he's also said he wouldn't bet against it.
Interesting. So what does that mean?
Well, he sees the potential,
Mm.
but he also acknowledges that a lot of those crypto projects will probably fail.
Oh, okay. So the early days of the car industry. Thousands of companies back then, but only a handful survived.
Exactly. He thinks the same thing will happen with crypto. There's going to be a huge shakeout, but the projects that do make it through could change the world.
So it's a balancing act, right? Embracing innovation while also managing risk.
Exactly. And it's the same principle that applies to balancing your money habits with, actually enjoying your life.
Right. You can't just hoard cash forever.
Yeah.
You got to find that sweet spot, right?
Yeah.
Between being financially smart and actually living a life that you love. I mean, Morgan himself, he splurges on first-class travel.
He does. He even justifies it by saying, he needs to be well rested for his speeches.
Right, because we all have our little indulgences.
We do. But I think the key is to be really intentional about those indulgences.
Mhm.
Make sure you're not overspending just to impress other people. Or keep up with some imaginary standards, like what Morgan talked about when he worked as a valet.
Yeah.
He realized the people driving the fanciest cars weren't necessarily the most successful.
Oh, interesting.
Real wealth is often, hidden. You don't see it.
Yeah, it's so easy to get caught up in comparing yourself to others, your Honda to their Ferrari.
Totally.
Material possessions don't equal happiness or security. Speaking of which, what about that story of Ronald Reed, the janitor,
Oh, yeah.
quietly amassed millions? That's pretty amazing.
It is. It's a great example of patience
Mhm.
and, long-term thinking.
Mm.
He lived modestly. He invested consistently. And he just let time work its magic.
Yeah, very powerful story. But I feel like there was a little bit more to it than that, though.
Yeah, there was. Morgan actually later expressed some regret
Hmm.
about how he initially portrayed Ronald in his book. He felt like he might have unintentionally glorified a life of extreme frugality.
So it's not just about saving every penny.
Right. Maybe Ronald could have, found more balance, enjoyed some experiences along the way. It's a more nuanced perspective. Just because someone achieves extreme financial success doesn't mean they have the perfect formula for a fulfilling life.
That's true. Which makes me wonder, how do you teach kids about money without, going overboard on the frugality thing?
Well, Morgan believes in leading by example. Kids naturally pick up on their parents' habits.
Mm-hmm.
So lecturing them about money can actually backfire.
Oh, for sure. They'll just do the opposite out of rebellion. I can relate to that.
Exactly. It's about creating a healthy environment at home where saving, investing, and just like responsible spending are just part of everyday life.
Right. And that brings us back to like the psychology of spending. So often we spend to impress other people,
Right.
to project a certain image. Like when I was younger, I used to buy like really expensive purses just to like fit in.
Yeah, it's a common trap. But the
Hmm.
truth is, most people are too busy thinking about themselves
Oh, really?
to even notice like your status symbols.
Yeah, you're right. Everyone's the star of their own show.
Exactly. And like we talked about earlier, it's really painful to have to scale back your lifestyle later.
Yeah.
It's so much better to avoid overspending from the start, to live within your means, and build true wealth. Not just the appearance of it. Like Morgan's parents, they stayed frugal even when their income increased, like significantly.
Okay, yeah.
They understood that true financial freedom came from controlling their spending, not chasing an unsustainable lifestyle. It allowed them to retire comfortably and pursue their passions, aligning your expectations with your income instead of letting your desires run wild.
Which reminds me of that whole happiness U-curve concept.
Oh, yeah, where happiness often dips in middle age as our expectations rise faster than our income.
Yeah. Yes. It's like we're constantly bombarded with messages about what we should have,
Right.
what success looks like.
And it's easy to get caught up in that comparison game. Like, think about professional athletes. They face a ton of pressure to spend lavishly,
Oh, yeah.
from their peers, from their communities.
It's a pressure cooker, right?
Yeah.
They might make millions, but they feel broke because their expenses are out of control.
Exactly.
It's a good lesson for all of us, though.
Yeah.
Even if we never reach like pro athlete level income,
Yeah.
it's easy to get stuck in that cycle of wanting more, more, more,
Yeah.
keeping up with the Joneses, as they say. So how do we like break free from that and actually find contentment?
Well, Morgan emphasized that it's important to keep a healthy perspective on wealth.
Yeah.
It's not the end goal. It's just a tool to help you reach your goals.
Right. So it's about having the freedom to, spend time with loved ones, pursue your passions, live a life that like aligns with your values.
And sometimes that means saying no to opportunities that would bring in more money,
Okay.
but they don't resonate with your true purpose.
Like Morgan's own approach to like his writing career, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he focuses on projects that he's passionate about, not just chasing the biggest paycheck.
Right.
He understands that true success comes from following your heart. Kind of like Mark Zuckerberg in the early days of Facebook.
Yeah.
So focused on building a great product, not just maximizing profits.
Okay.
And ultimately, that's what leads to greater success in the long run.
It's a good reminder that, money is a tool, not a master.
Right. You should use it to build the life you want, not let it control your choices or define your self-worth.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about finding that balance where your income can support your dreams without you having to compromise your values or feeling like you're always coming up short.
Yeah, and it's like we talked about before, better to have a Honda and peace of mind than a Ferrari and a mountain of debt.
Right.
But speaking of like nice things, once you get a taste of that, like first class lifestyle,
Oh, yeah.
hard to go back, isn't it?
It is. You adapt. You get used to that comfort and that
Yeah.
luxury. It makes it even harder to scale back later on.
Right, which makes it even more important to like really think about our spending choices
Yeah,
right from the beginning.
absolutely.
Really understand why we're buying things. Make sure it's not just about, keeping up appearances or like giving in to pressure.
Totally. And that's one of Morgan's key points. True wealth is having the freedom to say no to the things that don't align with your values.
It's about having the power to choose your own path,
Yeah,
whether that's retiring early, chasing a creative passion, or just simply having more time for the people you love.
exactly. And sometimes that means being frugal, not as a form of like deprivation, but as a conscious decision to prioritize the things that actually matter to you.
Yeah, experiences over possessions, right?
Yeah.
And having that financial security gives you the space to, actually pursue those things without constantly worrying about money.
Yeah, it's like building a solid foundation for your life, brick by brick, without fear of it all falling apart.
Right. But everyone's foundation looks different, doesn't it?
Of course, yeah.
There's no one-size-fits-all formula for success or happiness.
Absolutely. It's about figuring out what works for you, your values, your goals, your own circumstances.
Right. It's about being mindful of your spending, investing for the future, and just always being open to learning and adapting as you go.
And having the courage to define success on your own terms, not by what society tells you or by those like flashy displays of wealth we see all over the internet.
Right. Yeah. So I know everyone's wondering, what about his next book? Any hints about what he's working on?
He's keeping the details pretty close to the vest right now. But he did mention that his writing process involves a lot of reading and reflection, just like observing.
Yeah, he seems like someone who is always absorbing information and then turning it into like these little nuggets of wisdom
He is.
that we can then apply to our own lives.
And he's not afraid to challenge conventional wisdom,
Mm-hmm.
or question long-held assumptions.
Always pushing us to think deeper, look beyond the surface,
Totally.
to find our own unique path to financial well-being. Speaking of unconventional paths, it's amazing to think about how he got started. Remember, like, every major publisher rejected his first book.
Yeah, I do.
It's a good reminder that success is rarely a straight line.
Right.
It's often messy, unpredictable.
It takes resilience to keep going when you're faced with, setbacks and rejection.
Yeah, believing in your work, even when other people don't.
Exactly.
And sometimes the most unexpected turns lead to, like, the greatest rewards. Like his decision to sign with that small publisher in London, the only one who was willing to take a chance on him.
Yeah, and that decision changed everything. The book became an international bestseller, proving that sometimes the best opportunities come from the most unexpected places.
Yeah, it's a reminder to stay open to possibilities. Trust your gut. Never give up on your dreams.
And stay true to your own vision. When you're passionate about something, it really shows.
Yeah, and that passion is often what draws people in and like creates a real impact.
Mhm.
Like Morgan's work, it's so clear that he's driven by this desire to learn, share what he knows, and really help people navigate the complexities of personal finance, not just by fame or fortune.
Yeah. And that's what makes his work so compelling. It's not just about numbers, it's about the human stories behind them.
Right, understanding our own psychology, our motivations, our fears, aspirations.
And using that knowledge to build a life that's both financially secure and personally fulfilling.
Because at the end of the day, that's what true wealth is about.
It's not about how much money you have, it's about the richness of your experiences, the strength of your relationships, and the freedom to live authentically.
Yeah, that's a message that resonates with everyone, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Whether you're a seasoned investor or just starting out, there's something in Morgan's work that speaks to our shared desire for security, growth, and a life that's just filled with purpose.
And a reminder that we all have the power to create that life for ourselves.
Not through shortcuts or chasing trends, but through careful planning, patience, and a deep understanding of what truly matters.
Finding that balance between financial smarts and living a life we love.
Recognizing that true wealth is not a destination, it's a journey.
A journey that's unique to each of us, but one that we can all embark on with confidence and hope.
That's a powerful message to carry with us as we navigate the world of personal finance. It encourages us to be both informed and introspective, to understand the financial landscape, but also examine our own beliefs and behaviors around money.
Because ultimately, it's not just about the numbers. It's about creating a life that reflects our values, our goals, our own definition of success. And that's a journey worth taking.
Yeah, it really is. And so that kind of brings us back to you. What are your biggest takeaways from our deep dive into Morgan Housel? Anything surprise you?
I think for me, it's that emphasis on the long game
Yeah.
and the power of patience. It's so easy to get caught up in the frenzy.
Of the market and chasing those quick wins. But as Morgan showed us, real wealth, it's built slowly and steadily.
Right, like that oak tree.
Like that oak tree,
As we
exactly.
talked about. And it's not just about investing, right?
Right.
It's about having that patience to, develop those good habits, to learn from our mistakes.
Yeah.
And stay focused on those long-term goals, even when things get tough. It's
Yeah.
like that saying, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago.
Yeah,
The second best time is today.
exactly. It's never too late to start. And remember, it's not about deprivation
Right.
or denying yourself any joy.
Yeah.
It's about finding that balance
Right.
between, enjoying life now and setting yourself up for a secure and fulfilling future.
Which might mean saying no to some things today so you can say yes to bigger and better things tomorrow.
Right.
It's like Morgan and his first-class travel, he's willing to spend a little extra for that, comfort and convenience because it allows him to be more productive, focused on his work.
Exactly. It's about making those conscious choices, not just, blindly following the crowd or trying to keep up with some external standard of success.
Right. Which brings us to a final thought I want to leave you with. If you could retire tomorrow, what would you actually do with all that freedom? What are those passions you would pursue, those experiences you'd chase, the relationships you'd nurture? If money was no object.
That's a really powerful question to reflect on.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, financial freedom isn't just about having a big bank account,
All
right?
right.
It's about having the resources and the time to live a life that truly aligns with, your values, your aspirations.
So keep learning,
Yeah,
keep exploring, keep striving for that freedom,
totally.
both financial and personal.
For sure.
And remember, you've got this. Until next time, keep diving deep.